Hello everyone. With FF16 being out for like a week now, I wanted to give my thoughts on the game. What I liked, what I didn't like. Like, this isn't going to be a review per se, more just a minor discussion on the game. Although if you wanted my recommendation, I would absolutely say to buy this game. I believe there is plenty for new fans and old fans of Final Fantasy. Even if there is a lot of discourse about the game, then again, what long-standing series doesn't have people who just absolutely hate the game because it tries to do things differently? But that's a discussion for another time, perhaps. I will do I will do a format like this. I will start with something I like, then add things I didn't like about it. Simple enough, right? So let's get started with the story of FF16. That's one of my favorite likes. Overall, I enjoyed it. It had the political intrigue you've seen from other FF entries like 12 or like pretty much pretty much every Final Fantasy, almost every Final Fantasy, even the FF7 has some political intrigue in it. You also see a lot of influence from Game of Thrones, as stated by the developers themselves. I also like that having the icons heavily involved in the story was really cool. Like being used as a deterrent for the big nations at war with each other. It lended a lot to the immense power of the icon wielders. The writing was well done, and the characters were excellently voice acted. While the story wasn't groundbreaking, it was told well, and it fit this very messed up world that was built. Especially with, say, like the example of magic users, bears, as they call them in the universe. They were basically forced into slavery by nobles and whatnot. And a lot of the times, if a kid was born, even if a child was born that had like an aptitude with magic, they were almost instantly sold off. And the crazy bit was that the families were excited to do that. Like you actually see that as an example in one of the in the game, because you're in the tavern. This lady comes walking in. She just talks to some other NPCs in the room. She talks about how she basically had this child. She just had this child, found out that it could use magic, and she was just excited to get rid of it. You know, so it lends credence to the entire world being completely dark and very, very, very not a good place to live in, to be honest. Yeah, it's a pretty dark world. So some of the things I didn't like about the story was how sometimes it wasn't paced very well. After big moments in the story, you were kind of sent back to the hideout to do pretty boring fetch quests. And like while it did a lot for the world building and the story, I just wasn't too engaged with the quest structure. So a lot of it was being very MMO-like in the quest structure, whereas you would talk to somebody and then they would basically say, "We'll go here, talk to this person." Then you'd go there, and then either this person would tell you to go do this or go fetch this item, or they would say go clear out these monsters or something like that. It was it was a pretty weak gameplay loop in that sense. Yeah, see, it was also the same with the side quests as well. Like, they were great world building tools, but not very engaging gameplay wise. I also didn't find the main antagonist that interesting. I won't say the name of the villain or spoil anything, but I found him pretty bog standard for a villain. You know, I wanted to slap him when he spoke most of the time. But then again, if that was the idea to annoy me and make me hate him by how he spoke and his motivations and how just one note he was, then by all means they succeeded. And then just a quick mention that it also felt like some plot points were picked up and then dropped suddenly. Yeah, because they tried to do this bit with Hugo and the and Annabella, which was the main character's mother, where they seemed like they were trying to team up, but then shortly afterwards, she kind of just abandons, the capital and leaves. And then, like, Hugo jumps in there and he attacks the hometown and stuff. So it was kind of like, okay. I don't know. To me it felt like they were trying to build this alliance, and then it just didn't end up following through with it. And that's just one example. There were some other plot points that I won't get into, but that's just one that I could think of off the top of my head. And then just a minor detour here before I get to the next bit. But I have to say I really love the music in this game. Final Fantasy games usually always deliver on their music, and this one is no different. Shout out to Soken, who did the music. Well done. Like, clap, chef's kiss type stuff. I don't have any negatives in this category. Now on to gameplay. For me, it was fantastic. Being a big fan of Devil May Cry, the influence in it is very noticeable, while also doing its own thing. Switching between three icons and having two abilities each really lends to combo expression in different ways to fight enemies and bosses. Yeah, so like you can have like three different icons, and then all three of those icons will have like two abilities that you can basically cycle out, and they have like a cooldown, and then it basically lends to like your DPS and all that stuff. So it really lends to a lot of combo expression, because then you can kind of mix and match what abilities you're going to use, because if you master the abilities, you're able to put them on any icon you want, because normally you can only say mix Phoenix abilities with the Phoenix icon if you have it equipped, and so on and so forth. But if you were to say master that ability, then you could put a Phoenix ability on Garuda, for example. So you really see the mixture from Devil May Cry, Kingdom Hearts, and Platinum Games with the big spectacle fights, since all developers from each one of those series pretty much worked on the game. It's kind of insane. It was like all these action developers came together to work on this game. Boss fights were definitely my favorite part of the combat. From the big icon boss fights to the down and dirty smaller boss fights with more humanoid enemies, they were fun and engaging. I really, really enjoyed them. They had a lot of interesting mechanics to them. Sometimes they threw in MMO kind of mechanics to it, So it was really interesting. So they would have bits where you had to avoid attacks. You're waiting, they do their big move. You're waiting for them to finish up, and then you can go back on the offensive, and so on and so forth. So yeah, while there was no party system, you do have Torgal, your faithful hound, to help you with combos. Torgal has an ability to send enemies up in the air for you to do air combos, and you can also command him to help when you do ground combos. So say if you were doing like a magic burst at the end of it, you can press up on the D-pad and he'll do like this spinning attack on them, which does more damage than what he normally does. He also had a heal, but I wouldn't say that it was very effective. He would cast it on his own. Sometimes he would do it on his own. But for the most part, like, you weren't really using that yourself. You would mostly rely on your potions, your high potions or elixirs. So you also will at times have AI teammates. Actually, for the most, I would say pretty much through the entire game, there's maybe a couple sections where you don't have any AI teammates. But for the most part, you will always have someone on your team with you. Yeah, you'll have AI teammates who will help you, and I found them pretty helpful. They weren't fully useless. Most times they would clear out ads in the group while I was able to focus on the big baddie. So yeah, your AI teammates definitely did some work. Because there's this one fight in particular where you're with Sid, and there's a dragoon in there, and then there was like a dragon or something, or a little wyvern in the side. And Sid basically says, you deal with the dragoon, I'll handle the dragon. So you're basically one-on-oneing the dragoon, while Sid's taking on the wyvern. And you can see him off in the distance, and he's handling it pretty well. He's not he's not being stupid. He's actually doing damage to it, and he kills the wyvern before he can even kill the dragoon. So he it's just one example of where your AI teammates actually put in work. So then also if you're in a group of enemies and they're surrounding you and stuff, a lot of your AI teammates will spread out and take the aggro of some of the smaller enemies while you focused on the big guy, the big dude who's going to do a lot of the damage. And then for the most part, your AI teammates will actually kill all of the smaller minions before they help you with the big guy. So all in all, the gameplay was fantastic for me. I loved it. And said, why I did say there isn't a party system and the AI did do its job, I do wish there was an option to gear them out. Or give them orders for the most part. Or something akin to like the Gambit system from Final Fantasy XII. I do wish that we had that we were able to kind of equip our party members with some of their own equipment. It would just add a little bit more, a little bit more to it. Maybe they'll do a little bit more damage. And then also, I would have liked to have been able, because sometimes you'll have two party members on top of Torgal. So there's like three of you. Well, technically four if you count everybody. So technically it'd be all four party members. And then I kind of wish that they did allow us to kind of give them orders. Maybe like attack this person. But most, like I said in my positives, that they pretty much did all that without you having to tell anybody anything. But then I've also would have liked, a gambit system type thing where you can put in there, like you can put in at this health, Jill will do this or something, or at this health, Sid will attack with this magic or something like that. That would have allowed a little bit more credence to it. Make it feel more, give it a little bit more RPG type mechanics in there. So while it is a minor gripe, I should mention that it is a minor dislike. But a bigger dislike is from the lack of RPG mechanics. Now you are able to do different builds with your icon abilities, which is where a lot of the building your character will go, the mixing and matching of your icon abilities. But for stat nerds, there isn't a whole lot to go on. Like damage power and stagger damage being your main stats that you'll see go up, and you'll see that with your sword being equipped. You'll equip different swords, and then your stagger damage and your damage power will go up. Your level ups will handle the other stats, like HP and your willpower and stuff, which to me didn't really do much. I didn't see anything that really kind of gave big notice to that. Accessories will handle HP bonuses, because you can also get HP bonuses from your accessories, and defense bonuses from your accessories as well. That's mostly what they handled. But it's almost not that important, sadly. I also do need to mention that for me, the crafting wasn't really that special until late game, which was probably what it was made for. Because most of the time during my first playthrough, I just equipped the thing that had the most attack power to it. That was kind of what you were supposed to do. So like every big moment in the game, you would get like this special crafting ability that would allow you to get a new sword. So then you'd basically just go back, craft that sword, and then you'd end up using that until the next big moment where you would get the next crafting item to go do that. So that was pretty much all it was. It was almost like crafting was just their way of giving you weapon progression without having to find the weapons in the world. Like, you could find weapons in the world, but I didn't find too many of them. I think I maybe found like 2 or 3. And then, even then, like, it didn't take me long to get the materials to craft the best sword in the game for my first playthrough. Because all you really needed to do was do some of the hunts, and then it was you pretty much had it. Also, another negative I had was that some parts of the game were rather easy. At this time, I haven't done Final Fantasy mode yet, which was the New Game Plus difficulty. that came after you beat the game the first time. So it's supposed to be a harder mode. It rearranges the enemies. Apparently, there's newer items. They're a lot harder to beat, etc. So this can change when I complete that mode. But for my first playthrough, it was easy. It was a fairly easy game at times. Like pretty easy that early on I started ignoring random mobs entirely due to how easy they were to fight. I ended up just running past like for probably the first 3 to 4 hours maybe. I was fighting the mobs and to get used to the combat system. But then once I got used to like the combat system, I just started entirely ignoring them because they were just too easy. The only time I fought mobs was when they were was basically where it was either a force fight or if ads were a part of a mini boss or a boss. Overall, I really like this game. So in closing, I really like this game. It is now my favorite game of 2023. Even when Resident Evil 4 remake and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out, this is still my favorite. This is hands down my game of the year so far. Even with my little gripes, the game did a lot of good. It ran really well. I never had a crash. I didn't run into any bugs. It was a really polished game. Yeah, there were frame drops, even in performance mode, but the developers did say that they are working on that, so I can imagine it'll be stabilized in the future. And also giving options to remove the motion blur and adding a little bit more like controller configurations would be nice, because they only really gave you 3 different controller configurations, which didn't really change up a bunch of the controls. But hopefully in the future that they give us more button mapping options, which will be nice. As I also heard of some people actually getting sick while playing the game due to the motion blur, so that'll be nice if they can fix that, because they did say they were going to add an option to get rid of the motion blur. So that'll be nice for people who did get sick while playing this game. I'm sorry for anybody who did. It is unfortunate. But all in all, I would recommend this game for new fans and old fans alike. I know a lot of people are out there saying that this game is not their Final Fantasy. It's not something they can get into, but they do have a lot of options that do allow people who aren't exactly into action games and want to enjoy the story. They give them there are plenty of options for people who don't like those types of games to get in there and still play the game and have fun. So I think that's a good thing for developers to do stuff like that, because not only do they have like the story mode, but they have accessories that you can use to help you with combos, evading, parrying, and well, I don't think parrying, but definitely evading and doing combos. Like if you're not someone who's comfortable with doing combos, you can put on this accessory and it basically does like a bunch of combos for you. I tried it out. I basically tried it out by myself to see what it was like. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, and also I should mention, for a lot of people saying that this is not their FF game, this game is full of Final Fantasy tropes. Like, you wouldn't even believe it. So, for those saying that this game is not Final Fantasy, I hate to say it, but you're wrong. But yeah, this game is full of Final Fantasy tropes, Final Fantasy stuff. It's got Moogles, it's got Chocobos, it's got magic, it's got crystals, it's got political intrigue in the stories, it's got, an Imperial Kingdom. We've even got a Loyalist Kingdom. We've even got a Republican Kingdom. You've got all the kingdoms out here. It's absolutely it. Oh yeah, and I got to mention too, everybody has very pretty hair. I mean, come on. If that's not Final Fantasy, I don't know what is. And they're all incredibly beautiful. Everybody's so hot. So, you know, I I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. This game is definitely Final Fantasy. I'm sure there's plenty of other things I can say about this game, but if there's anything you want to say that you liked about this game, be sure to leave it in the comments down below. I would love to see what things you guys liked about the games. And be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more Final Fantasy content and more videos like this about games I enjoyed playing in the past, the present, or in the future. I'll now leave you with probably my favorite interaction. It is going to be a no context clip, so that's probably what makes it even funnier. So enjoy, because this is pretty funny, I think.
Regarding your original concern, you need not fear for Torgal's health. Why, the beast has the appetite of a behemoth. Just this very morn, I found him with his nose buried in my nuts.
Yeah, probably my favorite interaction throughout that game. So anyways, I will see you guys next time. Take care.